First things first, people keep asking us, what's the course all about? What can I expect when I step into a class and turns out to be a Tantra class? Do I have to immediately drop all my clothes, or what will be going on actually? So we offer the Tantra course both online and as a live event basically. And you'll see one of the two of us, sometimes maybe a substitute teacher. And then basically we would go ahead and speak a bit about one of the many colorful and beautiful subjects of Tantra. Maybe teach you a new method, a new asana, like a bodily posture, or maybe get into the nuts and bolts of a specific chakra, something like that. And then we will do a good amount of yoga practice, hatha yoga practice. So we all stand on our yoga mat and do some good deep practice, typically on a specific subject even. In the first year, typically, we go through the chakras week by week. And then we'll usually do a little bit of a meditation, sometimes just a reflection meditation, sometimes something subject-based. And eventually we will give you a good chunk of lecture in the end of the class, hopefully even with an exercise in it, covering on one specific subject, depending on what it might be. Maybe we are currently working on the navel chakra, and then maybe we speak about willpower. Or we might be working on the root chakra and speak about instincts and fears. So we get somehow through the different layers of our being in these talks, and we look upon ourselves from a tantric viewpoint. Why is it a Tantra course? Why don't you just call it a yoga course with some talk connected to it? What would you say?
So it's a Tantra course mainly because it invites people to live with the full power of intensity and stay in the world, which requires a completely different set of instruments, a completely different mindset than have this, let's say, more common view of spirituality in which you minimize the contact to the world. You need to eat and breathe, maybe meet a person every now and again, maybe make a little bit of income, but you minimize the contact with the world and you invest everything into spirituality. The world is kind of a problem. In Tantra, we aim to integrate life, relationship, love, erotism, family life, profession, purpose, everything to be integrated in spirituality, which requires a totally new view of the world and a methodology, so that you restructure your psychology, your energy structure, your views and attitudes, so that when you spend couple time, like we spend here couple time in the pool, and apparently we are completely immersed in, I don't know what, the joy of loving each other, it is actually a very profound, soulful, spiritual practice, in which we sometimes find ourselves, after a little bit of time in the pool, completely absorbed in very profound and ecstatic, loving meditations. So that requires the methodology of Tantra, which is based in our course on the fundamental Tantric text, on the Shiva Sutras, on the Shiva Samhita, on Tantra Loka, and the other texts, which are, let's say, brought especially implicitly. We give some quotes and explain some sutras, but mostly it is, let's say, the courses are pre-digested. It's not a scholarly course on Tantra, but rather the essence of the scriptures brought centuries and 1,000 years further, so that we can understand it and apply it today.
Yeah, I love that answer, because you already touched a bit upon another important question that people keep asking, which is what is Tantra in the first place? And I feel sometimes we can get maybe into a big philosophical excursus into that, but for me, if I would want to just put it into one sentence really, then I would say, it might be a longer sentence, but still.
It's fine.
I would probably say something like, Tantra is a path with massive traditional roots that allows you now as a modern person in this age, in this day, not just to be a little bit happy and feel better and be stretchy, but to actually achieve a depth of knowing yourself, even all the way into enlightenment, by simply living your life with a new viewpoint, with a new perspective. Because Tantra is a path of expanding your consciousness and having this viewpoint that creation and everything in it is divine, and therefore you can find the divine also within you, and also within your beloved, and also within your work, and also within, you know, the annoying little chores around the house. And basically anything could become a reason for enlightenment. And of course it might be easier when we are floating around in the pool to feel ourselves drifting into enlightenment, but also when we fight, we might want to find enlightenment within that, or use that energy to utilize the awakening of our soul, or when we, you know, have to solve a problem here in Amrita, where we are right now in the Integral Yoga Center here in Thailand. There's a lot of stuff rising up, and we need to make mundane decisions that maybe the average yogi doesn't want to be bothered by, because they're sitting in a cave and eating nettles and bothering themselves with meditations. But all of these aspects can become an invitation to to go deeper really, and to find the soul. And I feel for me personally, this is what this course has brought me, because maybe session by session as a student of the course, I wouldn't have noticed it so much. Would have been more like, oh yeah, that was an interesting session on the root chakra. That was an interesting session on love relationships. That was a superb set of sessions on astrology. Great. But what I notice is that just my perspective gradually changes upon the world. And I feel this is also one of the main things that happens to our students, really, like something that I feel very proud of, and like one of the success elements maybe, and very rewarding elements of doing these teachings, is to see this spark up in other people, that all of a sudden they start to see the world in a different way. They start to question their old patterns, and if they really want to stick with them, and if they maybe want to rather choose other aspects inside of them, awaken love and awaken compassion. And yeah, that for me is probably the most beautiful thing about this work. And a question that we get is, okay, so who attends the course? Am I ready to attend the course? Do I need any specifics to be a part of this? What does it take really to be a Tantra student?
Well, it takes almost nothing in the beginning. You just need to be able to come for the course and pay for the course. After a while, the course has a kind of pre-selection to it. And the whole course is structured in a way of a slow and gradual initiation, or rather a very thorough and gradual initiation. In the old times, the masters would be able to perceive the student, and when the student was ready, they would give him some very high initiations. In these times, when there are so few masters, then it's a little bit more difficult. You know, there are so many students that want to get initiation. So the main thing that happened is that real spiritual initiations that can lead to altered states of consciousness, they are not so much out there. Yeah. I mean, it's one of these things that you can't just, if you read it in a book, it just doesn't have the power. You need to receive it from somebody who already had the initiation and experienced those high states.
Yeah, and it can also not just be workshopped. Like, you cannot just you say this a lot. This Buddha didn't go to like 5 workshops and then attained enlightenment. Exactly. You have to, like, of course that can be a Kickstarter, but it has to be like a continuous rhythm to it, a continuous impulse sort of that leads you forward. So if you want to become somebody who actually walks the path, then it would need that sort of dedication to just, in the beginning, just really come weekly. But then, of course, also I feel it's really, especially in the Tantra course, more so than in the yoga courses that we offer, that you need to keep it alive yourself throughout the week. Yeah. Like, okay, you come, you get your impulse, but then if you don't put it into practice, then eventually it will lose its momentum. And that's also why we do a lot of homeworks within the curriculum. Like every week you get a little something, a suggestion to work on, also some optional hints and things that you can implement in your daily life, and then that actually makes up the path, that then you bring it home with you and you do it. And yeah, I mean, this, I feel what makes a good Tantra student is this willingness to engage with yourself deeply, and the willingness to transform, really, to allow that process that this Tantra course, I feel, naturally brings to happen. Because what I've observed is that when people hit their resistances, okay, then they stop. But whoever is willing to just roll with what naturally arises when you just practice on at least a weekly basis, and you're willing to step forth into the next version of you, then actually you're quite good Tantra student.
Exactly. And then the people who are willing to transform weekly and walk the path and practice and do their homework, actual homework, but also metaphorical homework they do their inner work, they will feel inspired to stay month by month and year by year. The people that don't transform, nor their perspective of life, nor inwardly, nor practice, after a year or two, the course would not be so entertaining for them, and they will somehow fall out. And the initiations are given gradually in the course. So the people who do transform and show perseverance will receive higher and higher tantric initiations, and will be able to transform faster and faster. And in this way, real initiations from teachers who experienced these initiations and had sometimes even very high states of consciousness can be passed forward. And this creates a continuous spiritual lineage in which initiates and people that actually experience the mystical world can pass this knowledge and the experience from one to the other. And somehow the inner willingness of the student to transform and to somehow sacrifice the old version of myself in order to be reborn, more clean, more confident, more loving, more fresh, more focused. Having that as an inner willingness, this makes a very good Tantra student.
Yeah, and I mean, in the end of the day, you know, all of us have a deep need, a deep longing to know ourselves more. And like, my guess is that this is one of the big reasons why people stay in this course. So also, if you're wondering if it might be for you, of course you can always come and try out. But yeah, if you are even remotely interested in knowing yourself, this course will be very, very interesting for you. So maybe in the end we can share how you guys can sign up if you want to. So we currently offer online courses for you, and you can find our events on the
onlineyogaacademy.com.
That is right.
Or you can find on our Tantra Yoga Chiang Mai or Mahasiddha Yoga Thailand. You can find it there as well, the information.
Mm-hmm. And if you eventually come around to a live event here in Thailand with us in our beautiful retreat center, we'll be delighted to have you over for a retreat or two. You can find us on Facebook as Tantra Yoga Chiang Mai on Facebook. So yeah, that's how you can reach us, and we hope we see you soon.